Friends or not, international trade has its own compulsions. According to a Bloomberg report, Russia is putting pressure on India to pay for its oil in the Chinese yuan. Given the simmering tensions between India and China, India has rejected the demand. But why do Russian suppliers want India to pay in yuan? And has Russia forgotten that India was one of the few countries which stood against the collective West to buy Russian oil despite sanctions? What are India's options in case Russia continues to insist? I'm Abhishek Singh and you're watching The Mint. Before we try to answer those questions, let's first try to understand some basic details about India-Russia oil trade. The Indian government saved $3.6 billion in energy imports in the last financial year by importing Russian oil worth $38.8 billion in fiscal year 2022-23. The private refineries saved even more, to the tune of $7.6 billion. Now, the next thing you need to know is that almost 70% of India's refiners are government-owned. And that means the majority of refiners are bound by government's orders. Until May, Indian refiners paid for the Russian oil mostly in dirhams, some dollars, and the rest in rupees. That is, if the oil prices remained above the $60 per barrel cap put by sanctions. But given the tension between New Delhi and Beijing, Modi government is unlikely to approve of payments in yuan despite all the money it might help India save. Why am I saying that India is unlikely to accept yuan-based buying? Well, because the Indian Oil Corporation, which is India's biggest state-owned refiner, did make some payments in yuan for Russian crude a few months back. But the government clamped down on it soon after. And also because popularizing the yuan at the expense of the Indian rupee also hurts India's own efforts to internationalize its currency and would risk a backlash against the Modi government as he seeks a third term in office in elections next year. Also, India is the only BRICS country which opposed the introduction of a common currency, fearing it would eventually favor the yuan to become the currency for the bloc. Alright, now that we understand what the majority of Indian refiners can or cannot do, let's try to understand why the Russians like the Chinese yuan more than the Indian rupee.
As for the rupees, this is a problem because we accumulated billions of rupees on the accounts in the Indian banks, and we need to use this money, but for this, these rupees must be transferred in another currency, and this is being discussed now.
That's Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister. As he said, Russia has an excess supply of rupees. This supply remains unusable, while at the same time, its trade with China is growing, which is leading to an increased demand for yuan. And to be able to pay for Chinese imports, Russia needs more yuan, as both countries trade using local currencies. In fact, the Russia-China trade in yuan has replaced the dollar as the most traded currency. So that leaves us with just one question. What is the way forward? Well, Russia will have to understand that it can't get all its wishes granted, especially not those which will invariably harm the other party, in this case India. So both parties are likely to reach some sort of a compromise. Instead of insisting on promoting rupee-ruble trade, India could convince Russia to continue the use of dirhams. We hope you liked watching this video. Please like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to The Mint.